Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. It's TheSketchMonkey here. I'm back at Winslow BMW to have a look at a brand new 2023 X3 M40i. This is not your average X3 because this is actually just as fast as a 2020 BMW M2 competition by just 0.1 seconds. So what we're going to do in this video is we need to have a look at this front end design. I like most of the front end, a couple of things in the lower part that I do want to change. We're going to have a look at the side view, the rear with these halo lights in the rear end, have a look at the interior, and then we're going to take this for a drive. Let's have a look at some of the basic specs of the 2023 BMW X3 in this Brooklyn gray. You have a 3-liter inline-six putting out 382 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque, connected to an 8-speed automatic transmission. You have all-wheel drive, and 0 to 60 takes just 4.1 seconds. Top speed is 155 miles per hour, and you have the fuel economy sitting at 21 city, 26 highway, and the price for this one is $67,500. Alright, so starting with the front end design of the 2023 X3, as I said, I like pretty much everything that goes on here, but one thing, if I were to buy this X3, this is in Brooklyn gray, by the way. I love this color. It has gray, almost a bit of cement tone to it, but if I were to buy this car, you have this black lower section. Why not go with the extended shadow line and add black around these chrome kidneys as well? Right now, it feels like the kidneys stick out too much and they don't really fit in with the chrome finish. So that's the first redesign that I'm gonna make to make this a shadow line X3 by turning those black instead of chrome. Talking about the kidney designs themselves and how they are designed and stylized on the outside, I do like the design of the kidneys here. They look proper BMW, more in the traditional sense, not sticking down all the way like they do in the M3s, M4 and iXs and all of these models. I do prefer this one. We have a clear separation with the top graphics up top with the headlight, the kidneys in one line, and then you have the bumper and then everything else that happens underneath the bumper, or these sort of functional pieces of the design. But as I said, there are a couple of things here that I want to redesign, and the reason for that is I think the top part here looks very clean, while in the lower part it gets a little too complex for me. It gets a little tricky in the lower part. So I want to simplify that, and also this line here, I think it sticks too far up, too close to the eyeball up here, this cheek. So I want to lower this to maybe this line here, and doing those type of changes to the lower section, I think that's going to separate the top and the lower part more, and also make it more for a more defined bumper, and have it be a little bit more structural in the front end, specifically the lower part of the X3. Coming around to the side view of the 2023 X3, and I think honestly this is maybe the first time I've said this in my review videos, but I do think that the side view is probably the best view for this car, and that has to do with the front end lower graphics and these taillights, which we're going to have a look at in just a second. The wheel setup here is 20-inch wheels, and here again we come back to this BMW-ness when it comes to wheels. Design of the wheel looks pretty good, but can you see it on camera? You can barely see the design of the spokes because they make them gloss black, specifically with this M Sport package. So what I want to do is still have 20-inch wheels, but I would like to switch them out to maybe some dark gray wheels. I don't think color or bronze wheels would suit this car, so some dark gray wheels onto this package, I think that would help the design of the side view. Now, looking at the line flow of the side view, I think this is what makes the new X3 beautiful, is the line flow, because we have a very structured and sharp shoulder line going from the very corner of the taillight, stretching across the entire car through the door handles into, if this were to continue, I like how it fades in this fender, because this makes it feel like the fender is wider because it fades into this piece right here. But if it were to continue this, it would continue right into the corner of the headlight. And since this is the M Sport package, we do have the M mirrors with this little shark fin here. Some people don't like that. I think it's cool that BMW is doing something different with their M models when it comes to the side mirror. We also have a very interesting cut in this side mirror going diagonally up from the lower corner up to this corner up here. Just one more detail I want to talk about before we go into the rear view, and that is this section here. I kind of think it suits it to have some sort of graphic here. I've talked about that in other M cars, this being an M40, not entirely M car. but it's not functional. Why not just make these slots functional here if you're gonna have this piece here? Just cut some holes in the inside of the wheel well to have some air, the turbulence here shooting out of this holes here. But other than that, I think it looks good to have it here because it has a nice integration with these lines and it breaks up the otherwise very clean side view of the X3. Now, coming around to the rear end of the facelift of the X3, and I made a video on this when they first unveiled the new graphics of the rear and the new 2023 X3. I think this is maybe a 2022 when this came out. And someone said in the comments that these lights here, they look like the Halo energy sword. And ever since I saw that comment, it stuck in my mind. And now all I see is the Halo energy sword when I look at these taillights. Maybe some designer at the BMW design department spent a little bit too much time playing Halo, so it was stuck in the back of his mind when he was sketching these out. I'm not sure, but I do prefer the previous generation X3 taillights because they had more dynamic feel to them. We are going to do a couple of redesigns to this rear as well. Before going into the redesign and start reshaping this rear end, overall, if I don't look at the graphics of this thing, I do like what's going on here because we have very horizontal lines and they at the same time have some dynamic feeling to it and curvatures. For example, this line up here, this being the little brother, the X3 in the SUV lineup. You do have smaller ones, but this sits kind of in the middle, so you can still have some fun creating some lines and curvatures in the rear end of this car. And I think they did a great job implementing everything in the rear. We do have some fake vents here in the rear. I do wish that they removed this reflector lights from the lower part and instead had them be positioned here and completely remove the fake vents that we have in the side. And you also have a camera positioned right here. So now let's talk about the redesigns that I want to do to the rear end. Couple of changes I want to do to the rear end of the new X3. First of all, first things first, let's remove this wiper right here. I don't understand why they can't hide it up here and make this a much cleaner area in this section of the M3. And moving further down, we need to again come back to these taillights. We can have the same outline that we have here, but let's add some dynamic feeling to them. I do like how they implemented the reverse lights in a very small little section down here, but what I want to do is make different thicknesses to the taillights and make them feel a little bit more BMW in their designs. And moving further down, there's nothing really down here that I want to redesign. I do like the integration of the diffuser and the black tip tailpipes. Looks good. It comes back to the front end. Why is the grille chrome when you have even the tailpipes back here black? So that's one thing that doesn't make sense to me in this specific spec, but I mean, everybody has their own taste. Welcome to the interior of the 2023 BMW X3. We still have, it's so new that we still have all the plastic on top of the screens. And have a look at this, we still have the iDrive 7 in this brand new BMW. So I'm glad that not every single new BMW comes with the iDrive 8 system. Even though the software might be better, I do still prefer to have the 12.3-inch on the screen like this, separated from the gauge cluster, which has this super beefy hat to it, and it looks very nice sitting inside of a dash. Now I'm gonna turn this on because it is very, very toasty in here. And as you can see, when I turn this on, I want some air blowing at me. It's very easy again to just adjust the vents down here, which you can see the fins moving in the background, so you know exactly where the air is coming out from. But let's talk a little bit more about this infotainment screen. Let me just show you what it can do. You go into car, for example, you have the settings for the car, vehicle status, and you got some nice graphics here. But here in this version, it actually has some much nicer wheels than the ones that, at least that's what I think, that are on this, the black ones. These are the type of wheels that I would like to have on my X3 if I were to spec this out myself. But you have a bunch of different things here. Media, you have the radio, of course, the tuning for the radio, you have the navigation, which can take up most of the screen and very easy to use as well. There's nothing specific about this that is different from other BMWs 2023s with the iDrive 7 system, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that. The gauge cluster here, I love that it says M40i up top, and this steering wheel is manually adjustable, so let me just adjust it up a little bit. And I do love the layout that we have here with the gauge cluster being separated in the middle. So in the middle you can have whatever you want, the assisted driving. You can have the map fading in to the tachometer and speedometer. I think it's just a beautiful setup for the gauge cluster itself. You also have these 3D graphics for the fuel and for the engine temp. And of course, down here, moving further down on the center console, you do have all the buttons as we just talked about for the climate control. All physical buttons. You also have the radio controls here, the dial for the volume and the preset settings. Further down, I do like that we have an M badge in silver here to remind you that you're sitting in an M spec X3. Makes it a little bit more special. Wireless charging is underneath this little sliding cover that we have in the middle. It's pretty big for a wireless charger pad. You also have a USB, normal USB on the side with 2 cup holders and a cigarette outlet. Further down the center console, this is where it gets interesting with all the buttons that you have here. Again, you have this dial you can use to play around with the infotainment screen. If you want to do that, you can use this dial, or you can use the touchpads on the screen. And you have the regular BMW buttons right here on the side. You have traction control, camera, parking assist, start, engine stop, and the drive mode. So when we go through the drive modes, of course, the graphics in both screens are going to change depending on what drive mode you are in. Sport being red, Comfort being a bit orange, and then you have Eco Pro being blue. Gear shifter looks pretty normal. You have the unlock button on the side if you want to switch gears, and you have the parking brake situated right here as well. And that's about it for the center console. Now moving on to the center armrest here, I do kind of like this Canberra cream style interior with the black dash. Probably not a spec that I would pick myself, because I would always be afraid that this would get dirty super easy. But looking inside the armrest here, you have a USB-C and some regular storage down here, nothing too special. These seats, I think they look great in this color with some proper bolstering to it. Of course, power adjustable in the front end. And I do like the perforated middle section that we have in the backrest and in the seat itself. Looking up top, we do have a massive panoramic sunroof that slides all the way back to the headrests of the passengers. And last but not least, what about the glove box? How big is it? I would say it's pretty big for an X3. Moving on to the steering wheel here, and this is one of these steering wheels that you find in a lot of BMWs, and there is nothing wrong with the steering wheel at all. I like the layout of it. It's very simple, it's very grippy and beefy, specifically up top here. You also have the settings for the radio, the voice control on the right side, and the cruise control settings on the left side, with the pedals behind it, which feels, they are made of plastic, doesn't feel as high quality as you get in, for example, a proper M car. But again, this isn't a proper M car, so they dialed it down a little bit with these plastic paddles. Gotta see how these shifts when we take this for a drive. To the left side of the steering wheel, you do have the settings for the lights and the parking lights, with an additional vent up here looking exactly like it does on that side. The doors also, simple design. I do like we have the X engraved in a area which you can't see when the door is closed. You also have this same carbon fiber look-alike material coming back to the doors. And I also like the contrast between the black and this Canberra style or color for the leather, with the black and the silver, looking really good. With that said, we talked about the front, and let's jump into the back and see how the space is in the back seat behind my own driving position. All right guys, jumping in to the back seat, and as you know, I'm 6'1", and there is zero problems fitting in here behind my own driving position. So obviously to get as comfortable as possible, this is where we have the front seats. You do have a pocket down here. The doors feel very similar to the front end, with this X engraved in the door. I really like that little detail. In the center console, you have the tri-climate zone settings down here. So you have the settings for the climate control down here, with some very small functional little vents and two USB-Cs at the bottom. Overall, very comfortable back here, and plenty of space in the back seat. Okay guys, here we go. 2023 BMW X3 M40i. The thing is, with these M Sport models, they're starting to look more and more and feel more and more like proper M cars. I mean, this has 0 to 60 in 4.1 seconds. How nuts is that in an X3 that's not even the X3 M competition? It's kind of getting blurry, that line between what a M car is, a proper M car, and the M Sport cars. But I'm not complaining. I have it in Sport now. It's getting still very hot in here, so let's just turn out the fan. Hopefully it's not gonna make too much noise. Adjust the seats a little bit. Further down, we do have a head-up display up there showing the speed and the speed limit, exactly like I want it. Look at this integration here, how beautiful this iDrive 7 is compared to the iDrive 8. I mean, what can I say? I like the old school interior, and you know that already. So let's put it in manual mode here, and instantly it downshifted. Interesting. We don't have cars behind us really, so let's go down to second gear, and let's step on it. Okay. This 8-speed shifts like, I don't know what. They're very, very quick. Even in this just M40i. As I said, everything feels like it maybe should be an M car, this thing. Like, I can't wait to drive the proper X3 M competition and see what that feels like compared to this. We have 382 horsepower. And one thing I've said so many times before is that BMW just knows. It doesn't matter the proportions, doesn't matter the package of the car, they just know how to make a fun driving car and a well-handling car like we do in this one. So much fun to drive this thing. Yes, you feel the balance is definitely, you feel that the balance sits higher than if you were in a coupe or a sedan. But for what it is, for the package that we have here, you know, it feels very good to drive. Even though BMW lately has been a little bit interesting, I would call it, when it comes to their designs, one thing they have not lost is this drivability of their cars and just how fun every single model in the lineup is to drive. Let's go. It is quick. This thing is quick. Yeah, 4.1 seconds 0 to 60. I mean, that is factually quick. If you want to get yourself a mid-size, I would call this SUV, that is still very, very much fun to drive and has a fantastic noise from it, from that 3-liter inline 6. And you might have a small family that you want to take with you on these fun trips. I would say the M40i, definitely an option. Now that I feel these pedals, they actually feel very good to drive with, even though they might be a little bit cheaper, on the cheaper end compared to proper M cars. It's not something that's going to bother you once you're actually driving this car. So let's go down to first gear, do one last pull, and here we go. So fun to drive this thing. I want to compare this to the X3 M competition and just see what craziness is going on in that car if this car is this good. The one thing I don't understand, as I said when we talked about the exterior though, is why would you pick a chrome grille, kidneys, being the only big graphic feature in the front end that's chrome? I don't get that. I would definitely go extended shadow line package on this car just to black everything out, because even in this not extended shadow line package, I think this is just a normal one, shadow line, we still have black tips in the rear end, so it doesn't make sense to have the chrome in the front. Huge thanks again to my friends over here at Winslow BMW and their never-ending inventory of fascinating and really cool cars. If you're interested in this X3 or the entire inventory that I have here, make sure you go to winslowbmw.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.